Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary, and today is Tuesday, so we're going to do Book Tag Tuesday, and my friend Stephanie at Miss Richards Reads created this tag because her and Christy at Christy Lewis Dostoyevsky in Space and Una at the Codex Cantina and I are all reading Notes from a Dead House by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and we called it the Russian Lit Party, and she created this tag, the Russian Lit Party tag, for us to do together, and we're all going to put it up together at the same time, and I can't wait to talk about some fantastic books in this tag, so let's just get into it. Everyone's links will be in the description below. Go check them out if you haven't already yet. So prompt 1, favorite classic. One of my absolute favorite classics that I read, started reading it when I was really young, and I've read it many times since then. That's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is such an important book, and it tackles such important topics where you're in a segregated town. A black man has been accused of a crime that he did not commit, and Atticus Finch is the only person in the entire town that will not only acknowledge that this man is innocent, but stand up and defend him in court. And it teaches such important lessons, and it was such an important book in my life that I can't help but talk about it when I talk about classics. And the adaptation, for the movie adaptation for this with Gregory Peck, was absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite adaptations, and it's so good, so I highly recommend check that out. Prompt 2, Tolstoy. Name a character or book with a tragic story or a book that made you cry. And for me, this book is Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison. I've read this book a couple times now, and every time it makes me cry, but the writing is just so powerful. It's about this character, Bones, and she is in this poor family that doesn't have money, doesn't have good morals, an abusive father, a mother that just keeps going back to the father no matter how many times he abuses her or Bones, and she just can't help going back, and it's just such a sad, tragic story, but it's so beautifully written that I keep reading it. Number 3, Gogol. Name a comedic book or a character, and for me this one is Guards by Terry Pratchett. Any of Terry Pratchett's books really are just fantastically hilarious. They have that Monty Python type of humor, and they make me laugh every single time. But Guards was the first that I've read. That's the first in the City Watch series in the Discworld universe, and it's just so funny. I can't help but laugh every time I read it. Prompt number 4, Dostoevsky. Name a book with great character development, and this one is Beloved by Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison writes such detailed, in-depth characters. They feel like real-life people. You can tell she based them off of real-life people. They're not sugar-coated. They're just real, raw people, and they always have amazing character arcs and character development. So any book by Toni Morrison really, but especially Beloved, which is my favorite Toni Morrison book. Prompt 5, Chekov. Name a novella or short story. For this I have 3 different ones I've thought of. First is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, one of his most famous, nevermore quoted Raven. Growing up as a teen, I was obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe, and so I couldn't not name him here. He's fantastic, and a great read going into October for spooky reads in October. Another one is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. I read this in, I think, early high school, late middle school, and it completely haunted me after I read this. It's about this town where, to try to, I think, control the population growth in the town, they had a lottery every year, and the person that essentially, quote, won that lottery was stoned to death. And it just haunted me ever since I read that story. And Shirley Jackson is a goddess when it comes to horror. She writes fantastic horror, but that short story just has stayed with me, and it's given me goosebumps now just thinking about it. That short story just stayed with me since I've read that the first and only time. The details are so vivid that I feel like I don't even need to read it again because it's still there in my brain. And then the last one I have here is The Pearl by John Steinbeck, and this one created my love for John Steinbeck. He also wrote The Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men, East of Eden, and he's just a fantastic American writer that a lot of people don't talk about a lot anymore, but he's one of those classics that I grew up reading, and all of his writing was transformed my life. But The Pearl was my first introduction to John Steinbeck, and that was a short story novella that he wrote, and it just fueled my love for John Steinbeck. Prompt 6, Pasternak. Name a favorite love story or relationship, and for me, I'm going to say this, the Outlander series. Not necessarily the main relationship that we have in there of Jamie and Claire, but this is just filled with all kinds of relationships and love stories of all different kinds. Unrequited, requited, love story in the past, love story in the future, in the present, all different ages, and it's just filled with all different kinds of love stories and relationships and friendships. And as you all know, if you've seen my videos before, you know that Outlander is one of my favorite series of all time, and I just love it, so I had to mention it here. Prompt number 7, Pushkin. Polyglot with a gift for languages. Name a translated work, and for me, this one is Night by Elie Wiesel. This was originally published in Yiddish, and it is a memoir written about Elie Wiesel's experience during the Holocaust, and I first read this at a very young age, and it stuck with me for so long. And then I got to see him speak when I was in college, and I left that conference, that speech, just in complete sobs. A lot of people have the Diary of Anne Frank that's been transformational for them in this aspect, but I read Night first before I read the Diary of Anne Frank, and this just completely changed my view on everything. I didn't really know a lot about World War II and what happened to the Jewish people with the Nazis, and then I read this, and I couldn't believe that people would treat other humans this way, and it just completely broke me, but made me want to be a better person because these people had to go through that. Prompt 8, Letters from Russia, nonfiction book. This is my favorite nonfiction writer is Joan Didion, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about her coming up in November when we do a Joan Didion read-along with Evie. She Was Only Evie. For this prompt, I have listed The Year of Magical Thinking, which is a memoir written by Joan Didion. She wrote it about the passing of her husband, while at the same time her daughter was dealing with a very major illness, and right before this was published, her daughter died also, and so she was dealing with a lot of different emotions while writing this, and she handles it so well, and she writes about grief in a way that no matter what you've gone through in your life, you can relate to this. And I will talk all day, every day about Joan Didion. She just is a fantastic writer, and I highly, highly recommend reading her. Prompt 9, Lit Party. If you could have coffee with any author, who would it be and why? First, I just mentioned Joan Didion, and I would love to sit down and just have a cup of coffee and just talk to her about all of her experiences through the decades. She started writing in the 60s and has been writing ever since then, and she's seen all of these major activities happen, these major events happen, and she's written about them all, and she's talked to some amazing people, historical people, and I just love to just sit down and talk to her and just to be able to spend time with her. Because going through my MFA in creative writing with a nonfiction focus, I read everything that she wrote at that time, and her writing influenced my own writing so much. I would love to just be able to spend time with her. And then the other author that I would love to be able to sit down and talk to is F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby. He is part of the lost generation of authors with Hemingway and Faulkner and Ford Madox Ford and Gertrude Stein, and just the experiences that they went through at that time and how they influenced his writing and his marriage with Zelda Fitzgerald. I would just love to be able to sit down and listen to his stories, because he's one of my favorite writers. He's one of my favorite classics. And just to be able to spend time with him. One of my favorite movies is Midnight in Paris, where our main character every night in Paris at midnight gets to travel back to the 20s and gets to actually spend time with all of these writers from the lost generation. And that would be a complete dream of mine to be able to do that. That would be amazing. So then our last prompt is tag some friends, and here I tag Sharon Dwyer, Zara at Books with Zara, and Lena at Lauren Lullabies. I'd love to hear all of your answers. Come to my Discord and chat about these with me. Who are your favorite writers? What would be your answers to these questions? Let me know in the comments below. As always, my Patreon and my Discord information are in the description below. My Patreon's only $1 a month, so come join if you want. We have a lot of fun there. We have a lot of great conversations. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever I put new videos up. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.